this is a Western concept. But when did this Western concept come to China? When did it kind of take off, or is it taking off?
I think it's definitely taking off now. I mean, I think it really came to China in the late 90s as a beginning, but since then it's been developing in different ways the whole time.
You know, we have a new term to describe this new thing besides CSR. We call it business social innovation. How to make better use of the corporate expertise and advantage to meet the social needs.
But this is also considered CSR, or you think this is a different?
It's part of the CSR, or it's new part of CSR.
It's all the development of it, right?
Hello from Beijing. Welcome to this edition of Crossover. I am Louisa Lee. And today we're going to be talking about the CSR practice here in China, which is short for Corporate Social Responsibility. Is it similar to what we're familiar with in the West, or does it have its own shape and form here in China? Well, let's first welcome our guests in the studio, Mr. Guo, Ms. Ma, and Mr. Douglas. Can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us your role in relation to CSR?
All right. My name is Pei Yuan. I'm from Xintao. We are a local consultancy. We serve company on CSR. I've been working on this area for over 10 years. So
over 10 years?
Yeah, over 10 years. And I can see the development first coming from a Western country, but now we see many Chinese companies are taking care of this as well.
Is Xintao like a consulting company?
Yes.
Okay.
So we work with companies and we help them because many companies, first of all, they don't know what is CSR. Corporate social responsibility, and why I need to do it, and then I need to tell them why, and then if they understand, oh, this is important, and we need to tell them how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Li Bongma. I'm from JD.com. JD is the Chinese largest retailer. Actually, I have been in CSR area for almost 10 years, since 2008. I remember the Wenchuan earthquake happened. I changed my job into CSR area, and I built up the JD CSR department, as well as I set up the JD Foundation. So now I'm the Secretary General of JD Foundation.
And how long have you been with JD?
Almost 4 years.
And you've been in this CSR industry for over 10 years?
Yeah, almost 10 years, yeah.
And Mr. Douglas?
Thanks for having us on the show. My name's Callum. I've been at PwC China, where I'm the head of corporate responsibility for 10 years now. So my job is to head up the corporate responsibility department there. Okay,
so I can say that you guys all have expertise in this area. When I think of the word CSR, these terms come to my mind: philanthropy, environmental practice, ethical labor practice, and also volunteering. When we talk about CSR in China, does it follow that same kind of model? This is a Western concept.
Yeah. When CSR was just first emerged in the Western country, I think the key concept is that company cannot just only take care of shareholder, so making profit, but also need to take care of the stakeholders. Stakeholders might refer to customers, your workers, and also your community. And I think in China we use similar concept. At least when I talk to my clients, we will tell them this is CSR. But in China we have different development history. Because back to 3 or 4 decades ago, we have strong state-owned enterprise. And at that time, they were asked to do hospital, they were asked to do schools, and they were asked to take care of the workers' parents. And that were the responsibility at that time.
Oh, I see.
But if we compare the state-owned enterprise CSR and the CSR that we're now talking about, they are quite different. Right now, companies do CSR. I think they will do this because they want to satisfy different needs of stakeholders, not just the workers. And they will make a smarter decision how I can do it smart.
We talked about, like you said, this is a Western concept. But when did this Western concept come to China? When did it kind of take off, or is it taking off?
I think it's definitely taking off now. I mean, you're the expert in this. I think it really came to China in the late 90s as a beginning, but since then it's been developing in different ways the whole time. So, I mean, even if I look at how it's happening in PwC, When I joined in 2008, the role was really to help get a handle of the philanthropic and volunteering activity that was already happening from people in the firm, but there wasn't anyone organizing it. But I sort of thought that was a little bit of a narrow vision of what CSR could be.
So how long was this? This is 10 years ago?
That was 10 years ago now.
Okay.
And so we built out then what our impact would be on the environment, how we can control that, the impact that we have on our people. So we talked a lot about work-life balance back then, and also just the impact we have in the marketplace through the business that we do every day.
So is it slowly progressing, or do you think it's moving at a pretty fast pace? Ms. Mao?
I think it's really developed very fast. From my personal experience, originally I was in the national company to do CSR since 2008, and 4 years ago I joined in JD because I do think the local company in China, they will be the major part to do the CSR. Actually, I agree with Guo's the opinion is the CSR is not only the charity, it's the way is how the company deal with the different stakeholder. As for JD, for customer, we deliver the authentic product and satisfy the service. And for our employees, we do really good for them to bring build up the kindergarten and bring the Renmin University primary school to them. And to the environment, we initiate so many green initiatives to do that. And for the community, we build up the innovative platform to help raise products for the people in need. So the CSR for me can be it's very inclusive, and the companies should do different kind of things to meet the different stakeholders' request.
It's quite a big range, I guess, when it comes to CSR. Is this Western concept, you know, is it more for big companies, or are also small companies, are they following suit? What's your take on this?
Well, if you look at the history of CSR in the Western country, it mostly started from the big company, because the big company will have big image, particularly those companies that are directly deal with customers, with the general public.
When they care about how people view their company.
Yeah, and there's movement like sustainable consumption, there are movement like anti-sweatshop movement, and this will actually drive the large company to do CSR. But there's the link between the large company and small company, and the link is supply chain. And therefore, they need to send their people or invite a third-party auditing firm to do the factory audit to see whether the local condition on environment, as Libo just said, on labor condition are good enough.
But can the smaller companies afford CSR? Because a lot of times you have to put a lot of funding into CSR. I mean, it's not something you need to sustain your business, but at the same time, you also want to fulfill this CSR duty. So how can you balance both for a medium-sized company to a small company? How is it possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. And small enterprise, as far as I know, they will do it if they are asked, and if they are asked by their buyers. The buyer will say that I need this, otherwise I'm not going to buy your stuff, and then they will follow. And I think
it depends also a lot on who's leading those small companies, because some people are just really passionate about making a difference in society, and whether that's through the business that they do or through contributing in other ways, they're likely to do that. So I think even small companies, they can contribute something. You know, it might not be a big budget, but if the people in, say, a small tech startup company have really important skills that they can contribute to school kids who don't have access to that kind of education at the moment, that's a great contribution.
Yeah, I've read, it's really interesting because I read in this article in Wall Street Journal, it says that in the United States, CSR practices are driven by consumers, where in China, it's opposite. It's actually driven, pushed forward by state-owned enterprises. Do you agree, being here in China working on CSR for over a decade?
And actually, the state-owned enterprise is also driven by the government. So the government actually, I think, paid a lot of attention to this area, and they have different policy requirements, particularly for the state-owned enterprise. And normally the state-owned enterprise, they are large companies, so if they change, then others will follow.
So you think state-owned enterprises will set the example first, and then medium-sized and small companies will follow?
It's quite a complicated issue that in China we can see that state-owned enterprise, they follow the policy and they do it, and multinational company, actually they follow their headquarters practice. Like, I don't know whether this is the case for PwC.
A little bit of a merger of that. So we have a global strategy at PwC, which all the territories that operate differently connect to, but it's managed locally to see what's most relevant in the market here as well. So I think you need that local representation of what really happens. And you were talking about the state-owned enterprises as well, but we also have huge Chinese brands now, right? Right, JD?
Yeah.
Who were introduced who are starting their own corporate responsibility activities as well. So that's a new scene. We've got these huge organizations like yours that are really starting to do something impressive.
Yeah, can you share about your experience?
Yeah, and I think besides the government they have so many policies and to lead the CSR, the initiatives that the companies should comply. I think as for JD, this kind of B2C company or even for some B2B the companies, local companies, another driven is by our customer because we have more than 260 million customers. And so we
it really reaches out to everyone.
Yeah, and at the same time, our logistics can cover 99% of the Chinese population. So now we realize and we found more and more customers, they prefer to consume the green product. And we also published the green consumption report this year, and especially for younger generation, they prefer the different lifestyle. So they would like to do more good things to our environment. So I think besides the government and the customer side and even our so many supplier sides, all of them is the call and for JD to do so many CSR.
It's also about how to maintain that balance. You want to create a good reputation, at the same time you want to do good to society, and that balance is hard to maintain. Do you agree?
Of course, it's quite a difficult balance, particularly as you said that if we compare the small enterprise and the large company, the small enterprise will say, hey, I need business first, and I don't have the money to cover this cost. So for them, I think they need to pay priority to different things, like how I can maintain the people that work with us.
But if you don't have the financial backing to do CSR, I mean, to give out money or donate to charities, what can you do as a company?
You can definitely use your expertise. I don't think the only way to do CSR is just to give them money. There are many different ways.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really important. And often you can have a much bigger impact when you are not giving money, but you're giving your skills, right? Because it's what you're really good at.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that because I think far beyond the cash donation, the companies really need to integrate the business strength into CSR strategy and to consolidate the resource and to empower the NGO and even the philanthropy industry. Such as JD, because we have so many customers and suppliers, so we built up the online donation platform, and to ask for this kind of build up the marketplace for the donations, the certified NGO can publish their charitable programs for the good request. This platform actually we use the JD's expertise is like we have the very strong logistics systems, and we freely provide this system.
This is a free delivery service. Not free, but delivery service.
Yeah, it's
logistics.
And JD pay all the costs. At the same time, because we have so many suppliers and they have product, they can provide the very low price. And our customers, they can do the donations to feel very meaningful to help other people. So over 1 year's operations, we have already donated 1.6 million products for the people who really need that. And our free delivery, the distance is almost 40,000 kilometers. I calculate that. It's almost from the northeast part of the Mohe to the southeast part of Nansha Island is equals to 4 round trips.
You know, we have a new term to describe this new thing besides CSR. We call it business social innovation. How to make better use of the corporate expertise and advantage to meet the social needs.
But this is also considered CSR, or you think this is a different?
It's part of the CSR, and or it's new part of CSR.
It's almost the development of it, right? So if I look at PwC and how it started in volunteering and philanthropy 10 years ago, we had pretty traditional volunteering programs, and we still have them, where we send 100 partners and staff a year, for example, to really rural schools in China to teach computer studies or English. And these are the kind of schools where there really aren't very many resources. They're very remote places. I don't know recently if you saw some pictures on the internet of who they called the Ice Boy. There was a boy who turned up to school with really spiky frozen hair, right? Because he'd had to walk so far to get to school. It's those kind of schools that people go to. And so they're really impactful for the students because they get this whole exposure from outside, which they don't normally have. And then our volunteers also get really good team building out of it. For them, it's an amazing experience. But then we kind of see, is that really the best impact we can have? Because is it using our skills? And so we looked at different ways we could work at that and trying to align to the core business of the organization and our purpose, right? Companies now talk a lot about what's your purpose as an organization. And at PwC it's to build trust in society and solve important problems, right?
Okay, so let's save the examples for the second segment. Let's take a little break. When we come back, we can talk about the cases and details. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When you receive the JD's box, and you can give our couriers the original box.
So we can actually give the box back.
Give it back.
Yeah, give it back.
Oh, I always feel guilty.
And we will give you Jingdou, kind of the.
It's like points. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Jingdou.
I didn't know you can actually give back the box.
So you need to tell more people.
Exactly.
I don't think a lot of
Or you
people
need to put the news on your homepage.
Welcome back to the studio. And we talked about how China is on its right path to adapting more CSR duties. So let's talk about the specifics. Let's dissect the examples. So let's start with Callum. Can you talk about what PwC is doing?
So with our volunteer program, we wanted to move into what was more core to our business. So at PwC, our purpose is to build trust in society and solve important problems. That's kind of like our motto. It's the reason we exist in the business. And one of the problems that we saw was that there was a lack of trust in the NGO sector in China. And a reason that people found it difficult to trust was that they felt there was not enough transparency around the way NGOs were using their funds, and that they weren't very well managed. And a few years ago, there were some pretty big scandals that kind of highlighted that. And at PwC, we thought, well, issues of transparency, so for example, making sure that people can see what you're doing with your money, and governance, which is really about doing the right thing well, is exactly what we do for our clients every day. You know, we help them with that in the audit world. So we looked at how we could start a program called Strengthening Donor Communications, which worked with NGO leaders to help them build trust in the NGO sector and ideally receive more funds and longer partnerships as a result from that.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so we had hundreds of volunteers across PwC run trainings in these areas of transparency and governance.
So PwC employees are helping out?
Exactly, they're volunteers. So they're using their skills to volunteer in these forums. And you can imagine 100 NGO leaders in a room. They're really passionate about what they do and the energy that you get from that when they're trying to improve their programs as well.
How do you select these NGOs?
Yeah, so we work with different partners. In Beijing, we work with China Philanthropy Research Institute. In Shanghai, we work with NPI, the non-profit incubator, and they all have their networks of organizations that they work with as well. So in Beijing, it tends to be some of the larger foundations. In Shanghai, a lot more of the grassroots NGOs. So we work with all kinds.
Okay, so the employees are encouraged to volunteer. So is this mandatory? Is this optional? Do they have a choice?
It's definitely optional.
Do they get peer pressure? Do they get company pressure?
I guess they will calculate the hours.
Exactly.
Do you get overtime? Do you get paid?
We do have volunteer leave, so people can take 2.5 days a year to volunteer, as well as without taking annual leave. So that's an advantage. But no, we call that being voluntold when you're ordered to volunteer, not volunteering, and that doesn't happen a lot. We see people really want to engage, and I think the impact we see from the NGOs is that they say they're now more trusted by their donors, and they're able to get more funds. And when our employees see that they've had that kind of impact just by doing what they're good at, they really want to be involved more.
Do those people who provide the training need they also get training as well before they provide the training, because I think serving an NGO is quite different from serving a large state-owned enterprise on accounting.
Yeah, and we've had this discussion before as well, where we talk about organizational management being similar, whether you're an NGO or a company. So our volunteers have the skills already, but we do give them a briefing on what the reality of the NGO world is. So people generally don't have the same kind of training, they might not have the same amount of time. And really, they're in it to save the world, right? It's difficult to talk to them about issues of transparency and governance until you can show that will really help them do a better job and impact their beneficiaries.
And Ms. Ma, what is your company doing with CSR?
As I mentioned, we built up the online donation platform by utilizing the JD's the business strength and as well as the collaborating with our suppliers and NGOs and our customers. It's very interesting because I think it's very healthy ecosystems. We can do CSR together. Let me take an example. I remember last June 1st is the International Children's Day, right? And we work with the NGO and we initiated the program is to raise the milk powder for the premature kids, and most of them actually are orphan. So because the Danone is have the product, one of the products is a milk powder, right? So Danone provides 610 milk powders, and each price is quite low. It's 6.1 yuan RMB. So the consumer is quite excited. So because the price is quite low, so the donate product is it's very soon. So we raised the 610 milk powders within 1 day, and JD deliver very fast. We can deliver it within 1 day. This ecosystems, each part can devote its resource, and actually from the NGO and JD and the supplier and our customers and even the premature kids, all of them can get benefit from it.
The kind of innovation that we're seeing so much more from companies, especially in China, around how they're approaching CSR now, it's really exciting because you can use like the skills you really got at. You have the infrastructure to get goods out really quickly and solving an important problem at the same time.
So in a way, they're kind of sharing the cost, right? Because the company is lowering the price, JD is delivering it and for free. And then the consumers are buying the product at a lower price to donate to the children in need. But with this business model, also JD as a company, you have to have a bit of funding to do this, right? I mean, is there no profit involved? Is it all just purely philanthropy?
Yeah, it's purely philanthropy. Actually, the cost, the delivery cost is the PayPal JD.
So this is quite a new model here in China. Do you agree?
I think these two cases actually also indicate that how company can make better use of their advantage and resources to do corporate social responsibility. And of course, there are some costs there, but the costs would not be quite high because the system is there, the logistics system there, distribution system already there. But if we imagine if we ask them to change their work, if we ask PwC to do online donation platform, it's quite difficult because they need to invest everything.
Exactly. They need to start a company or a department to do that.
If you ask Malibu to do the training.
How about let me throw in the case that I read. This Chinese businesswoman, He Chaoli, she donated like 1/3 of her fortune to wildlife conservation.
Yes.
Do you think this is CSR? I mean, I feel like here in China, people think it's CSR. But from my personal point of view, I feel like it's more personal philanthropic behavior. Because a lot of people do charity on the side. Like I do charity work. I actually raised a kid in Zambia for the past 15 years. But I feel like it's personal. It has nothing to do with corporate.
Well, in your specific case, I agree. That's not the very typical case of CSR. It's more like a personal donation. But I think it's quite important to recognize that the entrepreneurs or the rich people, they step by step, they would want to do more personal donation or even like use trust or some modern financial instrument to do this in a smarter way. And I think a typical case globally, it's Bill Gates, right? They have the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, and they clearly said that this is not business foundation, this is just my personal foundation.
But I guess with big names like that, with entrepreneurs, like they are also linked to their
Right.
company. So at the same time, it is a bit like CSR in a way. Say for me, it's not because I don't have a company, so it's more personal behavior.
I don't think it's CSR because you're not linking it directly to the company's strategy,
Right.
but I think it's definitely bringing benefits to that company as well. You know, unintended benefits maybe. So,
Sure.
you know, Bill Gates is famous in Microsoft and also the foundation, and so you link the two together even though they're actually separate organizations.
Yeah, you also have this good image of him, and then he is linked to the company, so in a way it's indirect or direct,
Yeah, particularly the business of He Chaonu, it's also about environment.
Yes, also.
So there's some link there.
I agree. I think that the two parts will benefit to each other. Yeah, and the founders will do the personal philanthropy donation, and the companies will do some kind of the CSR-related work. But the founders or the entrepreneurs' branding is high related to the company's branding, right? So, yeah.
So I guess if the vision of the entrepreneur or the leader of the company is on the right path, in a way the company benefits from it, or vice versa, right?
Yeah. Okay. And I think right now we talk about these cases, and we all agree these cases are very good. But I think the chance I see from the society here is that not so many company or senior manager understand how they should combine these things. Many people's eyes still like, business is business. Charity. So don't combine these two.
So usually they separate it. Here in China, they separate it, right?
That's the typical thinking. That's the typical thinking. But I think we are now encouraging these two to come together.
So using the company's strength to link to CSR.
Yeah, and even using the company's products, you know, to serve and make a difference, right? So it's possible then, we talked a few years ago about creating shared value. So the idea a company can still make a profit while solving a problem, right? There's still money that can come, and there's a discussion around that. You know, that's not philanthropy, that's a very strategic business proposal. There can still be some profit for the organization. There's a huge benefit to society. So there's a shared value among that.
Well, you know, Tom shoes,
right?
And
it became,
about it. Yeah, it became really popular.
One,
buy one, donate one. I mean, whether it's good for the society, whether they actually need the shoes or not, it's the same concept. It's you're paying for the shoes, but at the same time, you're actually doing something good on the side. Right. I think it's a good concept.
Yeah, and that's great for branding as well, right? Because
and
he, you know,
and it worked for them. It worked for them.
Yeah, and the founder came and spoke at PwC last year. Actually, it was so inspiring. For us to have to hear a story about a brand doing that kind of work.
And I feel like more brands a lot of startup brands are doing a lot of things like this. They're connecting themselves with doing good to the, giving back to the society. And I feel that actually works.
If you go to Starbucks, and get a coffee, and if you use your own cup, you'll get 3
RMB. It's cheaper, right? Discount.
Yes.
It's raising people's awareness of they need to be environmentally friendly.
Environmental awareness is really huge with young people now as well, and everyone, right? As you were saying, people want to have a green, sustainable economy as well. And you know, one of the successes we've seen at PwC around that is our waste program, especially electronic waste, and it's such a huge problem. I mean, you probably have, or maybe not you, but some people have laptops that they don't use anymore lying around the house. You might have them for 5 or 6 years.
Especially with all these technology
gadgets
that we have.
Right.
You know, the iPad that we had back in the days, of Nano, everything.
Right.
Like I have like 5 of them.
Yeah, and so you probably leave them in a drawer, and eventually, unless you can find a really sustainable way to dispose of them, they can end up in the trash. So we have a program where at PwC, the laptops we use come to the end of their life after about 3 years. They're still in pretty good condition. So what we do is we have a portion of them which are donated to rural schools in China as well. So that's a way of really addressing our waste, but also giving technology chances to kids in these schools who really might not have that kind of opportunity.
But do they know how to use it? Do
you have training as well, right? So
yeah, good point. It's not about hardware, it's also about software.
So then we have a team of volunteers who might go and help the teachers learn how to use the computers. Addressing e-waste is important. And
I guess reusable products that you can pass it down to other people or other people in need, right?
You just mentioned quite critical is the customers is a very important part to really to participate the companies, the CSR programs like green initiatives, because we provide so many the products and by packaging, you know.
Yes, I was thinking that too, the boxes.
So, and our customer is very keen they begin to think about how do we deal with so many boxes. So we have the green initiatives like we will recycle the box. So when you receive the JD's box, and you can give our couriers the original
Oh,
box.
so we can actually give the box back.
Give it back.
Yeah, give it back.
Oh, I always
Yeah.
feel guilty.
And
throwing
we
it
will
in the
give
recycle
you
bin.
jingdou. It's kind of the
Yeah, it's like points. Right?
yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Jingdou.
right.
I didn't know
Yeah.
you can actually give back the box.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you need to tell more people.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think a lot of
Or you
people
need to put the
know.
news on your homepage.
Yeah,
And
right.
that's great because people are really starting to talk about that kind of waste as well, right?
Yeah.
So it shows you can address
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
because-
and besides the recycling the boxes, we also try to recycle other things, other materials like the clothing, as the stuffed toys, and even the expired the medicine. And
medicine.
the customers, they are very enthusiastic to participate. They are very excited to also share the secondhand. They use this stuff, but they don't have the suitable way to donate or to discard of that. So I remember last year, we within 1 week, we have raised 40,000 the stuffed toys, and we collect them and to classify them, clean them, and donate part of them to the children in the remote areas. And I remember I participated one event. I gave the children the stuffed toys, and the happiness and the excitement on their children's face, and I cannot forget it. I feel very touched because I think this kind of the program, this kind of the sharing is not only the toy, but also we share the love and the caring and even the eco opportunities to accept this kind of the better life.
I guess it's quite inspiring when a lot of people are taking part. It's just not the consumers, but the company and everything, and joining forces to do this, to fulfill the CSR duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can also talk about the challenge part, because
Yeah.
I think their case are very good.
Yeah.
But I don't think the case could be perfect, so there must be some challenge as well.
Yeah.
So,
So yes, let's talk about the challenges. Yes, thank you, Mr. Go, for bringing it up.
I think one of the challenges we see is still people having the time, right? So and knowing how to volunteer. So it's really great for organizations like ours who can put resources into organizing that for their staff, for example. But you know, a lot of people have struggled to find organizations that they can volunteer with. They're out there, but they just don't have the means to do it.
I think the challenge is how we can really design a very good CSR project, and we can persuade the other people also to benefit the department's business. But basically, so we can really do good to help the people in the society.
You still need a balance. You want to do the
Yeah.
CSR, but you still have to have good numbers, right?
Exactly, and it comes down to education, I guess. Probably that's the real challenge then, is educating people inside your organizations and your clients as well on why it's important that we do this kind of thing.
I also have challenge for both of you. For your case, I think one of the challenges, because I have been working with NGO and business quite a lot in the past few years. And I can see that NGO in China, they have with quite different capacity. So you were saying that your people will do mentoring with these NGOs, like teacher and student.
Right.
And in many cases, when teachers say, I finished, and then the student will forget everything.
Okay.
So whether this case can be, how you can make sure
How do you avoid that case?
Yeah, your capacity is sustainable.
Exactly, and it's
the
follow-up.
learning is sustainable.
Right. So that's the thing. I mean, we have the training first, which is a half day, and we realize that a lot of that is going to stay in the classroom, and people get the idea. The mentoring afterwards is when we have more time and can follow up over a period of months. And when we do that, there's more chance that people can remember what they're being shared with, what they're being told. I think the real key is follow-up like several months later.
And for your case, just one question, and I think this actually, we already identified the question that not every people knows.
Yeah.
So there are some people with nice heart, they want to protect the environment, but they even don't know return their package or box.
Yeah. I think this is really the challenge, is that because our consumers, they are quite busy, and they're now they're full of the all kinds of different information every day. You can imagine when we open the WeChat, it's a different, the red dot in each group, right? Yeah. So how we can create this very good CSR project and really to sell the project and to let them get very interested in that and really get the more influence of the eco-friendly impact from us. I think it's a challenge.
But why don't you just put a sentence on the box so that when she opens the box, she can see, oh, hey, I can return
the box. Or you should have stations where you can put the box back, right? You can return the box.
Yeah, and we will. And in the future, we will launch more green initiatives related to our supply chain, related to recycling programs, and let more customers and suppliers to get involved in it.
Okay. Let's first take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the future of CSR. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Well, when we look at CSR, normally we say that there's 3 levels. First level is compliance, second level charity, and third level strategic level. So actually the labor practice, for example, not to use child labor, etc., they are part of the compliance. So we'll see this is at the bottom line.
Welcome back to the studio. Now, we want to talk about the future of CSR practice here in China. Do you have a positive feeling about it?
Yeah, definitely. We can see that more and more Chinese companies are growing. They are now part of the Fortune 500, etc. And when they grow, they want to be respected as well. So CSR will be definitely part of the things that they need to pursue.
But how do you educate people to do more CSR, to be more involved? On a day-to-day basis, how can you influence each other to do more, good deeds?
I think there are several things that we can do. For example, we can work with media, including CCTV, of course, to educate the general public. And we can also work with Chamber of Commerce so that they can educate their members. So there are quite different things to do.
Yeah. I think it's really about developing a sense of shared purpose, right? Everyone sees the challenges that we have in China at the moment. There's environment challenges. There's some great work being done to improve that right now.
Yeah, the air quality has gotten better,
right? But still a way to go. There's challenges around infrastructure and, a lot of things that businesses can do to make a difference. And when people feel that they are part of that challenge, so if you look at PwC, we have 17,000 people across China working for us. We're all experiencing these challenges, right? So how can we be part of that solution? With JD, I guess your customers, they're all part of that challenge as well, right?
Yeah. And in the future, we will have more the projects within integrated into the purchase process, and to let more our customers have more awareness of the. Probably when they buy some products, they will see the charitable the programs, and they will also can click the charitable programs and to donate at the same time.
So charities will be linked to, say, the products, right?
Yeah. We open our core business the resource to do that, and to actually, besides the NGO, besides the customers, last year we cooperated with more than 50 suppliers, and some of them are big names like Apple, L'Oreal. But in the future, we will have more suppliers and to join us, so we can have more stronger and resources to do it together.
And these companies, are they just international companies, or are they Chinese companies?
All of them, and it includes international companies, and also include the medium-sized or even small-sized companies. Normally, they do the business with JD, right? But in the recent years, the more and more companies come to me to tell me is that they really want to do the CSR with JD as well. So I think we need to plan or to create more interesting programs, so like to invite the suppliers to come in. And our online platform is a way we really want to build it and to make it stronger and larger, and to provide this kind of the CSR product to them.
And how about for your company? What kind of projects are you guys pushing going forward?
So we're looking at collaboration, right? So we want to really see how we can work with our clients, together with our people, with other organizations as well as foundations, to see how we can address some of the really specific challenges that we see in the cities and across China as a country. So we look at education, and unemployment is a potential threat that's coming up in China as well, right? Youth unemployment. How can we make sure that people have the skills they need to survive and to get jobs in a very changing world?
Yeah. We talked about philanthropy, we talked about volunteering, we kind of talked about environmental, right, a little bit about environmental efforts. How about ethical labor practice? We didn't really touch upon that. Do you think that's also just as important?
Absolutely. For me, that's part of governance. So it's about doing the right thing the right way. And if companies don't have that right, I think they can't say they're fulfilling corporate responsibility in any way.
And Mr. Guo, when you're consulting companies, this is one of the most important factors that you guys discuss about?
Well, when we look at CSR, normally we say that there's 3 levels. First level is compliance, second level charity, and third level strategic level. So actually the labor practice, for example, not to use child labor, etc., they are part of the compliance. So we will see this is at the bottom line, and for this, I think I agree with Colin.
I totally agree, and that this is the bottom line. We have 150,000 employees. It's a huge number, and most of them are the first line workers, and it's deliver person and the warehouse workers. So we really care about that because JD is the first companies who pay all the employees all the social insurance, especially for the first line workers. So I think the employees is a basic engine for the company's business. Yeah. So this is the bottom line for CSR.
Yeah.
I also want to highlight one thing. It's about the investment. If we talk about the future, then I think if you want CSR sustainable, then we need to reward the company that with higher responsibility, which means the more responsibility, the more business successful of this company. And that actually requires some long-term investor can reward these companies in the stock market, in the capital market.
And I also think for the future, companies going forward, they should really think about the environmental impact and how we can cut down or reduce our carbon footprint, even as an individual.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and the idea of bringing it back to the individual is so important as well. So at PwC, we've managed to, in China, reduce our carbon footprint from buildings by 29% per person. But it's also really important that when people go home, they keep doing the same thing.
So how do you achieve that? What do you mean by cutting down 25%?
We did things like changing our lighting to LED lighting, which is much more energy efficient, making our heating and air conditioning more efficient. And also structural changes to offices. We have big offices, and instead of everyone having a desk and a dedicated space, we have hoteling, which means people can come in and check out for the hours they're actually in the office. Because if you have someone who's working at a client's office for 2 weeks and they have a desk in PwC as well, it's a complete waste of space and it's using energy as well.
So you kind of have shared desk or shared office space.
As for JD, because we have the huge supply chain, and we launched the programs, we built up the 1 billion RMB, and to initiate the green stream programs is to really to develop the more green and the eco-friendly materials about the bags, and also we will change all the gas vehicles, the JD's red car, into the electric vehicle. And besides that, and the JD is the first company who promote the electronic invoice. And if you purchase something from JD, and you can choose to use the electronic invoice instead of the paper invoice. So we really want to do is to put more, make our supply chain greener, and as well as to develop the whole express industry to do that.
So we talked about all these different aspects of CSR. So Mr. Guo, can you tell us what is CSR here in China? Do you think it's the same as the Western model, is sort of the same?
No, I think we have different model, particularly in China. I think right now what we see is more a top-down approach, that the government advocate, and then large company follow, and then small and medium-sized companies.
So state-owned enterprises and big companies, and the medium and small, right?
And in the future, I expect to see some grow-up power. That the consumer also want to see a greener company, greener product.
They want to give back to the society.
Yeah, that will make us more sustainable.
So I guess we can wrap up the show and say that CSR here in China have similarities like the West, but you know, good deed is good deed, right? So we're excited to see what the future holds.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining Crossover today. Thank you for your time, and thank you for sharing your insights. And thank you for watching Crossover. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.